It's episode 2 of Beyond the Skybox, an after-hours show about games and nerd culture. I'm your host and Skybox editor-at-large, Brian Barnett.
It's me. It's the MEG, Lucas White.
And I'm also here. I'm Kris Cornelise. I'm one of the contributing writers that they dragged over from the other podcasts we've done in the past.
It's true. Kris has been my second chair on the Platformers podcast for some years now?
Year and a half, 2 years, give or take.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. He's written some pieces. We've done several episodes of Into the Skybox together. And basically, he's a stand-up guy, an Australian. He's standing upside down right now.
That's it.
You can't see it because the camera reverses it just like your eyes do. Like they just mirror it just automatically, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, he's going to be joining us for this episode and probably some more episodes in the future. Oh, tease.
Yeah, hopefully this isn't a one-off, but
let me tickle your ears with that business. Kris is really great. He's a great person to have along with you. He has been my second chair on the Platformers podcast for a long time because of the artful way that he has with describing games and kind of breaking them down, particularly in an audio format. He's a really great person to bounce ideas off of, and has it meant the world to me when you came to be the second chair after my previous host had to leave. So I wanted to thank you for that.
I am touched genuinely by all that. Thank you. No, it's been a pleasure the whole time. So I'm more than happy to be here and be there and be contributing however else, because hey, I've been, I was probably, obviously you guys were doing most of the work, but when Skybox was in the planning phase, it was always, every so often I'd be just like, so status updates, you guys, how those release dates coming? We getting there?
Exactly. Yeah, we talked about that last episode. So episode 1 of Beyond the Skybox is actually available for free for everyone. We got some feedback from our Patreon backers who were saying, hey, this episode is great. It would be really cool if we shared it with everyone. And so now if you check out Into the Skybox, I did a bonus episode feed drop of the first episode of Beyond. So Beyond the Skybox number 1, which is the history of Skybox, how it came to be, and each of the co-founders' histories are in there, as well as 3 questions that we answered from our Patreon backers. We're going to have more of those in this episode. So, and we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. This week, we're going to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown. We're going to talk about Anno 117 Pax Romana. We're going to talk about the Switch 2 and all that sort of stuff. But I tell you what, let's start. Should we start with a question, or should we do a topic first?
Maybe.
What do you think?
Before everything else, you should probably mention that our editor-in-chief is not here.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Will has
had a rough time.
Yeah, he's in L.A. His laptop exploded. But presumably he's playing video games at SGF and may or may not have lit some cars on fire. It's hard to tell. There's a lot going on downtown LA right now. So.
Oh, yeah.
There is a lot going on in LA.
They shot an Australian reporter with a rubber bullet.
Yeah. Was that the person who got shot in the head?
No.
I don't know if it was a headshot.
No, it was like her back of her leg or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's
somebody else who got
there's footage
who
of
got
it,
shot in
like,
the head
dude,
and was bleeding from the head, and the cops said they weren't going to call the ambulance or something like that, and I was just like,
Jesus
God.
Christ.
ACAB. Anyway.
Yeah, but we're not here to talk about how many of the police officers that are real jerks. We're here to talk about video games.
Yeah, unlike the guy who made Splitgate 2, we're not making a political statement.
Oh,
That's
Jesus
true.
Christ.
That's true. We're not.
So much
we're not making a.
Since we recorded the last episode.
It is really insane how much has happened since the last time we recorded.
It's been a week. It feels like it's been 3 years.
It's been 1 week.
Does. Say hello to me. No, I was gonna make the Titanic reference. It's been 84 years. Because it does feel like that. But yeah, we got a lot to get to. Let's start on the positive. Let's start on the positive, Lucas.
Okay.
Let's talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown.
Hell yeah.
Because
tell me of tactics.
This is a game, precious listeners and Patreon backers, you will come to learn over time, if you don't know already, how much of a tactics sicko I am. There's a huge difference between strategy games and tactics games, and I am a tactics sicko. Mm-hmm. Like, Will is a strategy sicko. I like strategy games. I've previewed, Kris and I both played a lot of Tempest Rising. We've all played like StarCraft, Warcraft, all these sorts of games. Like, I've played tons of strategy games. The tactical games, though, those are the ones that I have up there. Like Final Fantasy Tactics is in my top 5 of all time.
Change the filter. Sorry.
Please,
yeah. We'll get into it, I'm sure, at some point. But yeah, there's been a real run lately of games that we have covered or highlighted that have taken the tactical genre and added different wrinkles based on the license that they are a part of. And I think that's fantastic. We covered Metal Slug Tactics on the Platformers podcast, a fantastic game that is a tactical game that is also based on a run and gun shooter. So the main mechanic and wrinkle in that game is the more you run, the more tiles you move, the higher your dodge is, which is like you need to stay evasive in a run and gun. And so that's kind of what this is. The way that Turtles Tactical Takedown adopts the beat 'em up genre, I think, is fantastic, which is you move and the grid isn't static. It's always changing. You start on a level, you start in one section, you choose the place that you drop, and then there are enemies that you need to move around and use different types of abilities to defeat. And you have a certain amount of moves, and then you're either going to take hits or you're not going to take hits depending on your positioning or different abilities that you use. And then after a while, they're going to drop more enemies in, which is exactly what they do in a beat 'em up. And then after you defeat all of those like load-bearing enemies, it's going to pop up with the big green go, and it's going to open a next part for you to go to. And once you move forward, you can't move back again.
Yeah. The level literally falls from the sky, and the previous piece falls in the opposite direction. Takes anything on there with it.
It's excellent. Yes. Including you or whatever. So, and you've got certain amount of continues and all sorts of stuff. The Turtles have individual movesets that you can upgrade, which is something that you don't get in the beat 'em ups, but each character feels very much themselves.
Very different from each other.
And I am really excited to get into this with you, Lucas. So why don't you what do you think? Like, we've both beaten this. I love this game. I think this is I don't know what is happening, but the several Turtles games that have been released recently are like all-timers for me. Like this and Shredder's Revenge, I give both like full marks.
Yeah. I really liked Splintered Fate too. Maybe not as much as these two, but very close.
I haven't played that one yet. I need to reach out and see if I can get a key for that.
It's good. It's like Walmart Hades, but like complimentary.
Oh, yeah. I need it.
It's interesting. Turtles and, weirdly enough, manga series Fairy Tail both have had. They've been licensing their IP to indie developers. And it's just been interesting to see that happening. So, like, both this game and Splintered Fate, both self-published by the indie publishers that developed them, instead of having, like, Dotemu or Ubisoft or Activision, whoever else had TMNT before. So it's interesting to see that happen, kind of this mix between, like, big IP, little developer, kind of helping each other out. It's like symbiotic in a way. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So this game specifically, and this is what caught my attention. You mentioned it before. I think it was like during a Next Fest or something. And the developer, which is Strange Scaffold, is that correct?
I believe so. I will verify that.
Okay. They explicitly market the game as a turn-based beat 'em up. So that's not just like a thing we're kind of referring to. It's literally like part of the pitch, and that sounds really silly. It doesn't really
developed and published by Strange Scaffold. Yeah, you got it.
But then you play it, and that pitch totally makes sense. Turtles in Time is one of my favorite games ever. So like, I do like tactics games, but I'm not very good at strategy in general. So I came at it more of like oh man, I love beat 'em ups. I especially love the Turtles beat 'em ups. So just that raw curiosity of like, how the hell does this work? And then to have it all like come together in my head as I see each piece, and it's just like, wow, they really came up with this concept and then just nailed it. It makes so much sense, and it's so silly and creative. Like a lot of your moves that you have like knockback or opposite knockback, where you're like bringing things towards you, so you can then get them into position, and then you literally can just like kick them off the stage, and they're like little. They're not animated like all the pieces. It's like you're literally on a board and you're moving your pieces around. But it's so funny to just
it really reminds me of like the Go series, like Hitman Go.
Yeah, it's similar to that. Yeah,
it's very much like Hitman Go, like Lara Croft Go, those sorts of games.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have like these almost like chess pieces or like Disney Infinity kind of like action figure kind of things. Mm-hmm. Actually, like you have Launch right there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
it's
right
like one of these,
like
and it's
very
just like moving around.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because like in Turtles in Time, one of the best things you can do is like grab a bad guy and like throw it towards the screen. And here you're just like, oh, I kick you off, and you just go away, and it doesn't matter how much HP you have, you're just dead. It's so funny.
So I believe every character has one of these. Some of them as part of their base kits, some of them as part of like optional movesets that you can unlock, or like extra abilities that you can unlock.
Yeah.
But basically every turtle I had like something. Leo, that wasn't what I was doing, but like basically at the end, that's how I beat like the last 2 levels.
Yeah.
It's literally just like, I'm kicking you off the ledge and you don't get to play the game anymore.
Yeah, it's cool because like
it's awesome.
Each kit is really different. So like Michelangelo is based on kind of moving around really fast, and then Raphael is more about like kind of figuring out combos in a way that's kind of hard to describe, because like he has these like buffs and debuffs, but his damage is really low normally. So at first it's like, wow, it's really hard to use him. And then it's like, oh, if I like uppercut a guy, that puts him in quote unquote juggle, which means he can't hit me next turn. So even if I don't hit him again for extra damage, he'll still just be like, wah, and so I can like get into a group and kind of like uppercut a bunch of guys. Control. Yeah, exactly. Like
he can disable a bunch of people to keep himself safe.
Yeah.
Which is like something that's totally different from the other characters. Like other characters have access to juggle, but that's like his main thing.
He can like juggle multiple guys in one hit. And then Donatello has this mix of like he can do gadgets that'll like put damage and like slowing stuff on the field, but then he can also use his staff to kind of like move people around. And then Leonardo just kills people. He's just strong. I don't even know how to describe his style other than just like kill motherfuckers.
Why am I shocked? Why am I shocked that Brian likes the Donatello playstyle?
Donatello is the best. He's my favorite turtle. He's my boy.
Oh, yeah.
I love him.
I like Michael.
I saw this at the grocery store in the toy aisle, and I was like, I have to have it.
Hell yeah!
Because I haven't had my Donatello like action figure for many years, because I moved around so much that like a lot of the stuff from my childhood I just don't have anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So like I saw he's the new turtle, so he's got like a smartphone tucked into his fanny pack right here, so it's not the same as like the old Donatello, but he's still pretty sick, you know. But yeah, in this game, he's all about setting down traps and like denying people turns, and it's so awesome to cover like the entire screen with like electrical traps, and then be like, "Come at me, bro!" And then he can throw like kunai to make it so people can't like move the next turn. So you can place the traps on them and then stick them to the place so that they're guaranteed to take damage next turn.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you'll have somebody at like 1 health, and you'll just be like, "Cool, you're dead. You just don't know it yet."
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna handle somebody else.
And like
exactly.
A lot of the ninjas are stupid, and they'll just bum rush you because it's a beat 'em up, and so they'll jump in the poison lava or the poison water, thinking, "I'll just keep coming at you." And Donatello's like, "No, you're stuck. Sorry."
Yep. Oh God, I love it.
Sounds
I love
completely
it.
like one of my favorite characters in Star Vaders. Actually, it was just like, it's a grid. Throw down all this shit. Have explosive traps, and just like, cool, come at me.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
Pop, 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 pop.
I love it.
And it's cool.
You can
because,
also
like,
read more about
dude.
Star Vaders in my review, which is now on Skybox.
there you go.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, it's neat because like
And we're gonna have an into the Skybox on that soon.
right on.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, it's neat because like we said, the level kind of builds itself as you play. So like most tactics games, it's like here's the big board, and that's the whole battle stage. And this one, it's like you get a little section and a little section and a little section. So you're in these really tight, cramped spaces. Sometimes they're bigger, sometimes they're not. You don't always know where the enemies are coming from because they'll kind of like jump in every turn, and so you kind of have this like your turn's limited by AP. So like each move takes points, blah blah blah. So you're like, all right, when do I move? When do I do this? So it's always about planning out where you're going to be and like how open you're really trying hard not to leave yourself open because things can go south really quickly for you. So it's just this kind of constant like maneuvering and figuring out, keeping yourself safe, which is very similar to like a beat 'em up where you're constantly like, okay, I have to watch my back, I have to go up and down. I have to kind of like stick and move depending on the situation. So it's like there's a lot of very interesting ways they find a parallel between kind of the cadence of a beat 'em up versus this like turn-based gritty thing, and it just makes logical sense as soon as you start thinking about it and you see that things play out, and it's just so fascinating. I just blew through it in like 2 sittings. The only real complaint I had was the storytelling. And I'll go ahead and pass it back to you if you have a comment on that at all.
Yeah, it's very basic and very boilerplate, which is also kind of like what you get from beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily always what you get from tactical games, but I was kind of fine with it. I mean, it didn't I was definitely there for the gameplay.
Yeah, same.
For sure. I think they could have done a lot more with that. It definitely was kind of a like, we've learned this lesson before, but we're going to learn it again this time.
Yes, exactly. It's
sort of a situation.
The premise,
which I
always retreading the same ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, the turtles are sad because something happened to Splinter, and they're not working together very well. Oh no.
Yeah.
They need to learn the lesson that they're better and stronger together. It's like, man.
It's the thing that Dragon Ball Super did to Vegeta.
Yeah.
That they always do to Vegeta, because it's like, bro, he learns this lesson in the original series, and then he learned it again, and then he learned it again, and it's like, eventually you're not going to be able to do this. Like, you should have different stuff for them to do by now that's more interesting.
Yeah, and they were trying to do something interesting, and you can kind of tell that they're like, oh, we're cooking. And part of it was like, okay, they're doing the beat 'em up thing, and they have to have a reason the turtles can't be together, because like you're just playing as one character in each level. But then
I really thought that like towards the end you were going to be able to play as more than one at a time.
Yeah,
and I was disappointed that didn't happen.
Yeah, that strikes me as something that it should build towards, you know?
So, without going into it, they do, kind of. They find a way around it that's really weird and goofy, but at the same time I was like, oh, I didn't see this coming. And I kind of appreciate that. and it's goofy.
Yeah, but mechanically, it's not the same as what we wanted.
Kinda, but I actually was having fun just fucking around with it.
I was too,
Yeah.
for like purely like gameplay mechanical reasons.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna get to be in a turn-based game where I control all the turtles and take on the entire Foot Clan.
Right.
Which would have been sick. Like, I hope that they do like Tactical Takedown 2.
And then they just go all out.
And then we can do that. Yeah, that would be awesome. I want that from a sequel. Or from DLC or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I think just for the sake of the discussion, I won't spoil what happens in the story.
Yeah.
But so each turtle has their own moveset, and then there's like unlockable ones where you can like pay this currency you get to add to their moveset, and then you can kind of like do your loadout. At the end, a thing happens.
Based on how you perform, like if you get a lot of KOs in a row, you'll score higher, and then you'll get like more like turtle points or whatever.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you can back out. And if you don't know, you should know this. Between levels, you should back out and go to the main menu and then go to shop, because that's where you unlock this. And if you're not careful, you can just play all the way through the game and never unlock new things.
Yeah.
So be aware of that.
Yeah, it finds a way. It's basically like, okay, you're still one unit on the map, but the entire move pool is now open to you for the last stage or two. And so you get to like go and basically make your own custom kit out of all the different abilities. I thought that was really cool. As far as like, if we're not doing it one way, I think this is a clever way to like kind of, I don't know, have your cake and eat it too a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of
it
the
was an
appeal
interesting
of
way
tactics games.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was an interesting way to like synthesize what you had learned and be like, okay, have you been paying attention? Have you seen how busted some of these combinations can be if you combine them? Have you been thinking about, man, it would be awesome if I could do these two moves from these different turtles together? And like, now you can.
Yeah.
So like, what can you think of?
It's really sick.
And the last two levels are hard. So like, and there's no difficulty modifiers. So like, you either beat it or you don't.
Yep.
And you really, that is also the case in like some of the like, I definitely noticed that in like the Leonardo levels, where like I was like, okay, I really need to figure out, because you can just get housed.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I need to think about what I'm doing and figure out a way to make this work.
Once it clicks, oh man.
it is juicy. It is really great. Like once you figure out what's going on, you can go like a whole level, and like I got hit like twice.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just destroying everything. Like I think in like the last two levels and the final boss fight, I think I got hit like 4 times ever. Like total. Like I was really just in the zone.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that like beat 'em ups can give you and fighting games can give you that this game also channels, that I think is really awesome. I've been really impressed with the kind of crossovers and how they've really captured the feel of a totally different genre within like this new game.
Yeah.
I think that's really laudable.
They're experimenting, which is good. You don't just want to sit in the same formula, you know, and get the whole thing quite stale, which is something that, you know, has been, I've heard leveraged quite a bit around many of the showcases, like, that's been happening this week. It's just like, yep, here we go. We're seeing that before, Oh, you're mixing it up. Now we have a Hades clone. Oh, good. Very, very novel, you know? But over here, you got indies going, what if we take these two disparate genres, mash them together, make it work, really experiment with how it would work, and cook something wild?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you're adapting something, especially like when you're messing around with IP, which is such a like just completely overdone, overblown, overleaned on thing. Stuff like this where you can tell like they sat down and were like thinking about it. Like what makes these things interesting, and how can we kind of combine them and, you know, take the sort of what it feels like to do this thing and translate that feeling into this other thing. And you see this kind of thing in like tabletop board games a lot. I mean, there's TMNT board games. There was one I kickstarted a while back, and it was similar to this, but it was so complicated, and there were just the rule book was massive, and it took forever to play, and it was just too much. And then this is like the platonic ideal of a similar line of thinking, and it's just really cool to be able to like trace the work in your head as you figure it out.
Yeah,
just really, really well done.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I don't think we're gonna have a review for it, but I would definitely give it like very high marks. Like I would give it probably, I don't know, Lucas, what are you thinking? I would probably give it at least an 8.
I reviewed it at shacknews.com and I gave it a 9. I was super into it.
Yeah. I would give it an 8 or 9 if I was reviewing it for Skybox.
I will just have to pick it up and then play through it myself and then review it for you guys.
There you go.
Well, there you go. Done. Yeah, it's fantastic. All right, Lucas.
Yo.
You've been playing. I am a noted Steam Deck enjoyer.
Yes.
But there's another handheld out in the wild now.
There is.
It's crazy.
Wow.
I want to hear. There he is. He's got it. He's got the Switch too. I want to hear what you think about this thing.
I am so impressed with this thing. It is.
Well, now that's a start.
Yeah. It is just a stronger Switch, and that is exactly what I wanted. Really. I've seen a little hemming and hawing about like, oh, it's not the Nintendo that made you look up your blood pressure and check your blood sugar levels and do sewing kits and stuff. That's
but you're insane if you think they're not still going to do that.
Yeah.
You think they won't try Labo or whatever again? You think there won't be like Ring Fit 2 on this shit? They'll do it. They'll 100% do it.
100%, especially with like the mouse and stuff. But like the Switch was always for me like the ideal. Like when the Wii U came out, you could really feel like, man, Nintendo is cannibalizing itself by having a console and a handheld. This is making things really rough, especially when they struggle with like third parties and stuff. With the Wii U, it was like, oh, this is kind of like they're experimenting in a space that's really promising. And the Switch came out, and it was just like, holy crap, they did it. They nailed it. They
combined everything they had for handheld and console, slapped it together into a surprisingly, like it wasn't powerful, but it was powerful enough for a handheld, especially at the time, and and easy enough to develop that all the third parties went, yep, we'll throw our shit on that.
Exactly, and it exploded, and people showed up. And then
it exploded. Oh no!
Then unfortunately, it's very outdated hardware just kind of violently caught up with it towards the end. Part of that is like the console cycle almost lasted a whole decade, which kind of unheard of up to that point.
And really not a huge leap forward anyway. Like we've kind of hit, very diminishing returns in terms of actual power. So
yeah. But the Switch 2, like it makes up for it exactly. I think it hit a sweet spot in terms of like not going too hard. It doesn't get hot. It doesn't start blasting air in my face. There's a fan on the dock, which is weird, but I don't really like. I'm a handheld sicko, so I love playing games on handhelds. And this is like, oh, this is the thing.
My man.
Where I was getting frustrated with wanting to play games on Switch, but them always being kind of janky and really rough around the edges. Now that's not the case anymore, and it's mostly the same size. The screen is a lot bigger. It's a LCD, which I thought was going to be disappointing, but it looks amazing. It's very similar in terms of like color depth and everything to the OLED screen I had. Which just shows how much, I guess, technology has come. it doesn't feel nearly as flimsy because the new Joy-Cons are like magnetized, and they have these little like switches you pull, and it just demagnetizes it like instantly.
Wow.
Yeah, and it just clips on, and like I accidentally hit it one time, and it like started to pop off, and I was like, oh shit, and I let go, and it just like it snapped right back in, which was cool. And yeah, I've been playing the Suikoden HD on it, which is like, that's not really gonna be a good gauge of the technology or anything, but it's Suikoden, that's sick. The big one for me,
we had a Suikoden remaster in the year 2025. I'll take
isn't that
it.
crazy? Yeah.
Worth it. I know, crazy.
The big one for me, power-wise, is actually Sonic X Shadow Generations, which is just, it's funny to bring up Sonic games and all, but the difference in performance is insane. It's super close to playing it on PlayStation 5.
That's impressive.
It's incredibly impressive. That game on Switch, it was like struggling to stay on 30 frames a second. And I don't even think it ran at 1080 docked. It may have, I'm not sure. And this, it is 1080 on handheld, and it has a performance mode and a visual mode, and that thing runs at a smooth 60 frames a second in performance mode on handheld, and it looks incredible.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it outputs at 4K docked, and it keeps that 30 frames a second. I think it has just ever so slight, like occasional teeny tiny dips, but it is so close to playing on PlayStation 5, which is just mind-blowing to me. Just like having a game like that handheld running and looking as well as it does is just blowing my mind.
Yeah.
And then I started playing Mario Kart a little bit today, and that game looks amazing in action on handheld. I'm not the hugest Mario Kart person, but just
you kind of know what you're getting with Mario Kart. Yeah, and
exactly.
It's fine. It's good. You're always going to have a good time with it, but there's like, what more do we say about it,
Exactly. It's like, it looks pretty. When it rains, it looks nice. The characters are silly. You've got like the crab from Mario Bros. That you can play as.
Yeah, you were showing off the bee earlier. They were just like, who the fuck is that?
Who is this bee? I don't understand. And then one more thing about it. The other big game I've been playing is actually a really old game, and that is Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Love that game.
It's so good. And so one of the things that's kind of been up in the air and unclear, yada yada yada, is like the backwards compatibility. And there's a
that was going to be my question about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a big old list. It's like, all right, here's the games we're still working on or that need patches. Here's what works. Here's the games that are getting updates or new editions or whatever. It's a lot of different language and blah blah blah. So my mission was to just try some Switch 1 games and see what happens. Regardless, this is the game I landed on because it's a weird special case for a really specific reason that I just think is really cool from a tech standpoint. That kind of highlights how weird all this stuff gets. So the Nintendo Switch had a 720p screen on it. This one has a 1080p screen on it. I believe it's 120 hertz. So if a game doesn't get updated, it's kind of at the mercy of the constraints of the original version.
Right.
And for those listening, what I mean by that is like, despite the power difference, if you put a game in and that game is locked at 30 frames per second, it is not going to run better because the
Because it's locked.
Yep, it is locked. Same with resolution. It's not gonna just magically output at 4K because you put it in the thing. However, game by game basis, some games don't have those locks. So like there's a review game I'm playing right now that I can't mention, but I will say I loaded it over because I had to play it, and it was just running way better because the frame rate was unlocked. So it was really kind of chuggy and on the Switch. Put it on the Switch 2, it's like, oh man, this is just like night and day. Like it just runs nicer, but it's spitting 720p out on the 1080 screen, so like the text is still kind of fuzzy, and some of the textures are kind of fuzzy, just because that's how that's going to work unless they go in and make changes. So one thing people were wondering about is like there's a lot of like Muso games on the Switch, and how are those going to run natively? And one of my favorite things to do with new hardware is do a Muso test. So like when the PS5 came out, I'm like, all right, let's see how Berserk runs, and it runs great. So I've got my Muso games lined up. I got Hyrule Warriors, the Fire Emblem one, the other Hyrule Warriors. But I wanted to go to the first Hyrule Warriors because
that's the best.
It's an amazing game. But Koei Tecmo also did something really weird with it, and nobody was really sure if it was an accident or not. So that game is trying, for some reason, to output at 1080p in handheld mode. Which caused performance issues that it probably wouldn't have had otherwise, playing it in handheld mode on the Switch, because it's like a Wii U game, basically. So it should have been fine. But it wasn't, and it's like kind of downsampling a little bit, I think, but it's just like it's really doing a thing that it shouldn't be doing, and they never bothered like updating it or changing it or fixing it or commenting on it. So it was just like why is this like this? This is weird. But fast forward to now, and the Switch 2 does not give a shit. It's like, give me that 1080p, and I will throw it out there, and I will run this game at a buttery smooth, perfect 60 frames a second the whole time. And it is just, holy crap. Man.
So it turns out Koei Tecmo were just, wizards. Like, you're not going to appreciate this now, but your kids are going to love it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Almost 10 years later, this game is perfect.
Finally, running well. After 3 generations of console.
Right? They put it on the Wii U. They put it on the 3DS. Put it on the Switch. Finally, on the Switch 2, it runs flawlessly. And it is just like so cool to have a Muso game run at 1080 60 without a hitch on a handheld device, without the fan blasting, no heat issue. It's just, it works. And it's like, damn, this feels worth it.
Unthinkable.
This could be the only game I have on this thing, and I would be happy. Wow. Yeah, just to kind of put a cap on it, I guess, and move on. The only thing I've run into that's been annoying is, this might be my fault. I decided not to do a system transfer.
Interesting.
Because I have my OLED, and I wasn't really planning to trade it in. Just like, I have this, maybe I'll trade it in later. I don't know, maybe I'll pass it down to my kid. I don't know. But I decided not to do that, because I figured, I'll just load up my stuff on the Switch 2, and maybe I'll need to like set it as my dominant console. I don't know, whatever. But it was like, no, you can't re-download your software. You have to do the virtual game cards and transfer them. And that was very
It wouldn't
annoying.
be Nintendo without doing something weird and backwards, and
Yeah.
it's 2025. We still don't understand what an internet is.
Yeah, it was very strange. Because at first I thought it was like, oh, these are cute, and it's neat that I can like lend games to my family. Because me being in the industry and getting codes, I can't really share games. When I get like, oh, I got Pokemon, and now to let my kid play it, I either have to buy a second copy or like put my profile on his Switch or do some wizardry so he can kind of play it. And now it's like, oh, I can just like hit the button and lend it to him for 2 weeks. Great. But then now that I have this new console, it's like you need to have your OLED within, some distance so you can move the cart over to that one, and then you can't play it on the other one if you need to without moving the cart over. And it's just like,
sounds like you're transferring Pokemon or some shit.
Yeah, it's weird. It's exactly like that. It's like I'm playing Pokemon Home, but with my video games. When before I could just hit the download button. So I ended up just deregistering the OLED and moving over to this thing completely so I can just access my games.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But at least you have that option and you can access most of your games. It all runs reasonably well, presumably.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Because that was my biggest concern about, a Switch 2. Is like, yeah, sure, but look at my Switch 1 collection. I don't want to lose that. Gimme.
Yeah, so if you've got a bunch of games, you'll probably want to look at they have these PDFs that they're updating that have all the games. Some of them have boot issues or whatever, need an update, and they kind of have their this is what the problem is, and this is, are we working on it? Yes, no, kind of thing. There's only been a couple things that they're this isn't working on the Switch 2 at all, and it's mostly random media apps like Crunchyroll, and it's just who cares?
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, this thing is it's pretty big. The screen is massive. There's barely a bezel. It's lighter than the Steam Deck by a little bit. And yeah, it's I feel the urge to port big coming on, you know what I mean? It's like the Switch 1 coming on all over again. It's except this time it's man, the games will actually work.
Yeah, because now we can actually beg for shit like Armored Core 6 or whatever. It's yeah, please.
I mean, apparently Cyberpunk runs amazingly on this thing. I couldn't give two shits about Cyberpunk, but
I could, so
yeah,
I'll have to test that one day.
Yeah. This thing is awesome, and it sucks that it's expensive. I had to try and get it ASAP because of work and everything. But just as a new piece of hardware, it's man, if every game I'm interested in comes out on this thing, I have no interest in playing on anything else. Maybe there will be a new power milestone, and it'll be oh, here we go again. But
we figured out some way to make it, worthwhile. We have the next ray tracing or something.
But I just don't see any game that comes out anytime soon not being able to run perfectly competently on the Switch 2. And I'm just, that's entirely vibes based. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but just the experience I've had so far, playing the Sonic game, it's not like it just runs immaculately on the other console. It still has a performance and fidelity mode on PS5, just like on here, and the difference is minuscule. So that being my point of comparison, it's man, let's go.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
I do have one final question. As a handheld sicko who is thoroughly ensconced within the Steam Deck ecosystem, if somebody's going to jump in and they don't have either of these, do you have a recommendation?
I think so. I haven't seen or held the Steam Deck OLED. I only have the LCD one.
That's the OLED is the one that I have.
But just in terms of holding it and things making sense and the UI and all the other stuff, I would say the Switch is an easy winner. But of course, right now the Steam Deck's library is just way more varied and expensive, and
and it can be a desktop.
Yeah.
Which I don't think the Switch 2 can be.
Correct. So it's got more things going on with it. But just in terms of playing games, I feel the Switch 2 would be a better experience without needing to like tinker or mess with things.
So for probably most people, that would be the better route.
Yeah. I think for me...
Unless you have like specific desires, or you're coming to it with like not a huge Switch library and a huge Steam library. Like obviously that's going to put like their thumb on the scales a little bit, but in a vacuum,
there's a very, very large
games.
history and library on a PC that cannot be matched by anything else. And most of that is, at least to some extent, compatible with Steam Deck. So if you're just going for sheer scope and volume, you're going to go with that. But if you're coming at it from a new person perspective, I would gather a Switch 2 is the way to go.
Yeah. Plus, like, it's quiet and it's not hot.
That helps.
Yeah. Like I've got this guy. I use it more than my Steam Deck for performance reasons, but it sure is loud and warm. And not having that be a factor is awesome. Like I can play it in bed. I'm not worried about pissing my wife off. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with it. I guess now that we mentioned it, one thing is like, it's not that heavy, but like because it's so thin, and like the other handhelds like the Ally and the Steam Deck, they have the whole like handle situation going on where you're like your whole hand.
Yeah.
This is still like,
I was gonna ask about that.
It's kind of like the original Switch where like the grip is you sort of like holding onto it with the triggers kind of like hanging on your hand. I can't think of a better way to put it than that, but I hopefully you guys kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and so less actual handle, as it were.
Yeah,
it's not that comfortable.
It feels like the part hanging on my fingers is doing more work than it should be. So it's like kind of it's not hard to.
That's
hold,
one thing that's kept me on the Steam Deck, because like I don't. Yeah, I didn't get a Switch 2, and I think the main reason why I didn't is I don't have any like upcoming reviews that are on there.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff that I do, I prefer doing it on PC, and so I'm happy with the Steam Deck being my wheelhouse. But also, I found after I got kind of acclimatized to the Steam Deck, I found going back to the Switch to be very uncomfortable for long play sessions, which I like to do. And also, I really have become a fan of... I have a little hub. It's plugged into like a monitor. It's also like I've got a Bluetooth keyboard and a mouse. Yeah. And there's a lot of games like Marvel Rivals or like Doom Eternal where like I can just seamlessly plug this in and have like a desktop setup just down on my couch. And that kind of flexibility is really what has me in the PC ecosystem for now. And so PlayStation can't match that. Xbox can't really match that. And I don't know that Switch 2 is going to be able to match that either. So
it's probably the one that comes the closest, I would say.
Yeah. And I haven't tried the mouse mode yet. I've heard good things about it. I have Kunitsugame. I believe that's what it's called. I haven't tried it yet.
Path of the Goddess.
Yeah. Another thing I just thought of, because I haven't played it yet, but I remember leading up to it, people were kind of like, yeah, the launch library is okay. And I was like, yeah, there's not really like a sicko game like Super Bomberman like last time. That kind of bums me out. And I was like, oh, wait a second. Konami was like, fuck you, we brought Survival Kids back. I was like, oh, yeah. Haven't played that yet.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time, yeah.
Yeah, I do have Survival Kids on here. I haven't played it yet. But I was like, oh, yeah, there you go. There's your Bomberman equivalent. But
there's your Disgusto game.
If it's good, I have no idea.
Yeah, Sicko is out. Disgusto is in after I just like fumbled my way ass backwards into that last episode. Will Berger fighting game Disgusto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to try Street Fighter 6 on this thing eventually.
I'm very interested in hearing how that runs because there are, and like they haven't said anything about bringing Tekken to Switch 2, have they?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So like Street Fighter 6 runs great on my Steam Deck. Also, I had to mod Marvel Infinite to get it to like run better, and it's still like not great. So I pretty much just play Marvel 3 and like the MVC collection on this. But Tekken is one of those games where it's like sometimes it runs great and sometimes it doesn't. So I'd be really interested to see, like, as far as fighting games or like very demanding games go, like what the performance is like on Switch versus Steam Deck. I really kind of want to like get into this as things go on.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do like some sort of a piece on like handheld showdown or something and just kind of like see what the deal is.
I definitely want to see how
I
much this thing can get pushed, and like what is the limit of. I mean, it's a 1080p device with a 120 hertz screen, and I feel like they wouldn't.
It's a lot.
They wouldn't do that if they couldn't like actually make games do that, right? Like that seems like.
Yeah.
All I'm hearing here is Marvel took on in it for Switch 2,
yes.
maybe.
It makes sense. Like and like update Guilty Gear, right? Because that's on the Switch.
Yeah.
Why not?
Guilty Gear Strive
Grand
is
Blue, are we
on the
happy?
Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
It's
the
crazy.
sky's the limit.
It's pretty crazy.
I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake's about to be on there. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to, I think. Future's looking bright, and Nintendo's is
Expensive, but bright.
as almost always, Nintendo is like really putting a thoughtful foot forward with the system. And I think that if I was going to design a system, I would definitely put it 1080p and then like crank up the frames, because I feel like that is where the future lies. With like responsiveness is so important, and people don't realize it until they've had it in their hands.
There's a reason we
so-
never shut up about FPS, and everyone's like, 30 is fine. No, it's not. And if
It's not fun.
And once you get used to it, you will know. You'll never go
Yeah.
back. You'll never want to go back.
Yeah.
Don't care how it looks. Get
But-
it stable.
It's crazy, like even playing games that are not fast paced. Like as soon as I played Dark Souls 3 on like the 30 frames mode, and then what was it? I forget what it was. It was like on PS4 where it was like, hey, guess what? Dark Souls 3 locked 60, and I was like, I can't go back. I literally cannot go back. That game feels totally different. Like boss fights that were really difficult before are like cakewalks now, just because of the frame rate change. It's crazy. Like, do yourself a favor and like lock your games at 60.
Stuff matters.
Imagine Bloodborne at 60.
Oh my God. One day,
One day it'll be
will
released in the
happen.
Sony Vault. One fucking day.
it will be released. All right. Let's take a break from talking about all this stuff, and let's answer some Patreon questions.
Let's do it.
So we're going to start with a question from Murph. And unfortunately, I did not give you guys a great heads up on this, but just fly off the cuff and we'll see what happens. So Murph asks, by the way, you can ask your questions by backing us on Patreon at patreon.com/skyboxcritics. Yeah, you can back us at, I think, the $10 level, and you get access to the show and also the ability to submit topics. I don't know why I'm saying this, because unless we're distributing this one for free like we did the first episode, if you're listening to this show, you're already going to be within the tier that you can
That's
ask
a reminder
questions.
But in
Tell
the
your
event that you're
friends.
not,
Yes, tell your friends. Let's get everybody in here. Murph asks, what is your favorite game advert?
Game advert. Okay.
So, if you're not familiar with that, that is as Chris's ilk might say, advertisement. And if you're in the United States or maybe in the UK, oh yeah, I guess in the UK it would be advertisement too.
commercial.
In the US it would be advertisement or commercial, these sorts of things, or advert.
We usually just call
Yeah.
them ads or commercials.
You should just call them ads or commercials. So I'm going to go ahead and lead it off while you guys are thinking about it. My favorite ad is actually the supplemental Halo 5 podcast series that teased the coming conflict between the Master Chief and Locke. That was totally that led up to the biggest letdown in games history, because they didn't have the story do that at all.
Yep.
And it really sucked. I will also say, as an honorable mention, I am a big fan of that like band ad that I think it was an Xbox ad where the lady was in labor and she shot the kid out, and he was flying through the air and aged and turned into an old man and then slammed into the ground into his coffin. It was crazy.
What the hell?
Have you not seen that one?
I may have repressed it. I don't know.
Yeah, you definitely gotta see this. It is out of control. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can find this. I believe it was a banned Xbox ad. I'll look this up.
Wow. Yeah, there are a lot of friggin' weird ads out there. That's for sure. But that transcends weird and quirky and some of the early
Yes. Oh my God, I found it.
Oh no.
Okay, so this is called "Life is Short, Play More." Hold on, I'm gonna see.
We're gonna have to do a live reaction. Like,
I think we might need to. Hold on. Let me see. Let me make a window for this real quick.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Brace yourself. No, I have a couple of my own that I can share when the time comes, and some of them are, I don't know, they're not super impressive. They're just ones that I remember seeing and stick with me, because it's always a rarity to get any kind of ads for video games here in Australia, because we were so far behind, like pretty much through the 90s and aughts for a lot of it, releases and such. I will say,
all right,
yeah, go ahead.
Hold on.
No.
Oh, hold on. Hold on. Here we go.
Why are we restarting it?
Because it wasn't capturing. Hold on.
Is it aging? Okay.
Yeah.
Did David Cage make this?
Or David Lynch. Who thought this was a good idea? Why would someone make this?
Oh my God.
What in the fuck? Who greenlit? Who did this? Who is responsible for this?
No. Okay, hold on.
That looked expensive too.
I'm speechless.
That was something
Anyways,
else.
so yeah, that is my honorable mention.
Can we top that? Can anybody?
I don't think so.
Should we? I think that's the limit. I think that's the point where we went too far. We've peaked.
Sorry that I started there. I should have let you guys go first, and then I should have brought that one in the rear.
Wow.
I
Okay.
cannot believe that. Oh my God.
Thank you for that, Murph. That's your fault.
You did this to us.
You did this to us.
Wow.
Anyway, so what's your favorite advert of all time for games? Can you even talk after that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Or should we just move on?
So I think I have 3, unless this completely broke my brain and I forgot what the third one I had was.
Okay.
So my first one I think is kind of, I don't know. It feels a little lame, but I have very fond memories of that Super Smash Bros. Commercial where the mascots are like dancing in a field of sunflowers or something, and then they just start beating the tar out of each other. It's like
Pretty sure I've
that's a good
seen that one. Yeah.
it's just I remember seeing that on TV and just it ruined me. I was laughing so hard. Yeah, it's like Happy Together is playing and they're frolicking, and then I forget what exactly happens, but just like one of them turns around and just like smashes Yoshi in the face with a sledgehammer or something like that. It gets silly. And then in the end, like Pikachu gets thrown.
Oh yeah,
across.
it's literally called the Super Smash Brothers N64 Happy Together commercial.
Yeah. That's a classic.
And it's people in the costumes. Yeah, and then they start tripping each other and beating each other up. Yeah.
So good.
Beautiful.
That's a really good one. And then it cuts to gameplay,
Yeah.
which is perfect.
The second one's a magazine ad.
Okay. Interesting.
And it's for a Rayman game.
Okay.
I forget which one, but we're all aware of who Rayman is and what his special situation is, right?
His special situation being that he has no arms or legs.
Yes, he doesn't have a neck either. He's just like his torso and then his arms. I mean, his hands and his feet and his head are just floating.
Leave him alone. He's armless.
So in this advertisement,
Oh my god, are you talking about the Nintendo Power
I
one?
believe so.
Okay.
So this advertisement, it's 2-page spread. It's in a bathroom.
Yes, I have it. I have it right here.
Rayman is standing at a urinal and he's looking back at the camera with a mischievous look on his face. And then there's these two guys on either side of him, and they're like, "Whoa!"
Yep. There you go. Okay, I'm putting that on the screen for our viewers.
There's
Wild.
There's some implications happening. that,
It's just like not attached or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
who
probably massive, I guess.
No, underneath it says, underneath him it says in text, no arms, no legs, huge features.
That's so
Oh my
good.
God. I don't even remember what game it was for.
That might be the tagline for this episode.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you.
What in the world? This is the kind of stuff people were doing in like magazine advertisements
Unhinged.
at the time. Absolutely unhinged.
This, fantastic.
Thank you.
A worthy addition to the you are born into the tomb.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shot
Chris, what do you
across the
got?
country. Well, none of mine are nearly as interesting, but they stand out to me mostly because I saw them growing up, which is, again, rarity in Australia. Like, gaming, not a huge thing, didn't get a huge amount of mainstream appeal and such. So, I got 3. One of them is just kind of a dishonorable mention because one of the most advertised games that I saw getting TV ads of all things you can imagine, right? Fucking Superman 64
Okay.
got a TV ad.
Incredible.
And that played a lot. And it's just going over features and, talking about Superman and such. Basically not reflective of the actual game because fucking Superman 64. But it got a lot of TV screen time in Australia, which is just... No wonder gaming wasn't very big in Australia at the time, if that's what you're advertising, right? Like, fucking ridiculous. So that stuck out to me for some reason.
Incredible.
What was the other one? There's another one where it was an ad for one of the Mario Party games. And where it's a bunch of kids and a noise complaint comes in, the cops are at the door, and they're like, yeah, we heard, some kind of people were stirring up trouble. You guys know that? Kids are just like, and the cop's like, I didn't think so. So which one of you jokers is named Mario? And then Mario pops up, it's a me! You step outside, please. And they just escort
I
him
remember
out.
this one. Yeah,
Carry him off,
Mario
yeah.
gets arrested. And he's
Yeah. So that always stood out
that's
to
a
me
good
for
one.
some
That's a good
reason.
one.
And then the last one I've got is for Golden Sun, which is notable mostly because it did not reflect the game in any way, shape, or form, because it was like an orchestra performance. They were performing in an orchestra, and then for whatever reason, the chandelier, the orchestra comes to life and becomes this big dragon, and then the orchestra has this pitched battle with this chandelier dragon. And it's like live action and weird and everything. And then it cuts to, Golden Sun, And it's completely unreflective of anything in the game. But what's special about it is that when they brought out Golden Sun Dark Dawn, the third game, they added one new summon, which was the Chandelier Dragon in that ad, as a nod to that.
That's awesome.
And I remember that and going, oh, wow, that's cool. So
that's really cool.
That always stuck out in my mind as well. So those are my three.
That was really neat. I remembered my third one.
Okay.
This one's good. So this is from the PS3 era. YouTube's a thing now, so you can do all kinds of fun stuff.
Okay. I think I found the ad that he's talking about.
The Golden Sun one? It's pretty well known.
Yeah, I think I found it.
Oh yeah.
If you guys want to see it, I'll play it for you. But it's up to you.
Up to you. Lucas, you
want to go
ahead
for
first,
yours,
and then we'll
for
see if we show it for the people. But yeah.
Okay. We don't want to watch the one I'm about to bring up because it's way too long.
Okay.
So Capcom had some problems at this time, right? PS3 era. Including they published a platformer called Sour Patch Kids World Gone Sour. Just
news to me, but go on.
A platformer about the Sour Patch Kids. To advertise this, they produced an entire music video with Method Man. And he just...
Oh my god.
He just spends 2 or 3 minutes rapping about how mischievous the Sour Patch Kids are.
Wow, IGN did a review for this game.
It's just like the Sour Patch Kids are causing trouble. They're like messing with his, really nicely cleaned up and decorated house. There's a video game.
In hindsight, we probably should have figured out that Inafune was a fraud long before we did.
Long before. Yeah.
Oh, man. Genius.com. Method Man World Gone Sour lyrics.
There we go.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God. It is literally 3.5 minutes long.
It's a whole song, yeah.
In the comment, it says, check out Method Man's latest hit. World Gone Sour.
They're using the term
Lost
hits
Kids.
liberally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just absurd that exists. And I always remember it when I'm thinking of silly game commercials.
Bizarre.
Wild. That's
good question, Murph.
out of control.
This has led to some interesting shit.
Yeah.
This is not what he was hoping for, I think.
I mean, know.
Who knows? Who knows? And let's see. Was that my first? Was that the first question we did?
That was the first one, yeah.
Okay. So let's do another one. This is another Murph special. He sent like 4 in a row. So I'll do another one, but then I'm going to go to somebody else. Which first-person shooter has the best melee attack?
Ooh.
And I have 2 answers for this one. I don't know that these are definitive. These are just like, because I didn't take time to sit with this. These are just kind of like off the cuff, first thing I'm thinking of. First, classic Doom melee makes people explode.
It does.
Which is pretty sick. Particularly when you pick up like the Berserk upgrade. You just can punch Kako demons and stuff and they just explode into guts. It's pretty great.
Huge guts.
Huge guts. Yeah. That's a nice little one there. Another one that I will say is, because I played so much Halo 3 multiplayer, I will say Halo. Because the empty a full assault rifle clip into somebody and then melee them for the kill, like as you're running up to them, was like just a staple.
It did feel very
and
satisfying.
It sounds pretty good.
Sure.
He chucks the elbow, and just, And also the fact that like when you do that from behind, it just instantly kills people. I feel like those are pretty good. Also later on, like if you're talking about like, I think it's Halo 4 where they start doing this. When you do it from behind, you get like an assassination animation, which is really sick. And you can unlock like new assassination animations in multiplayer and stuff. So those are gonna be my answers.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Lucas, what do you think? You got anything?
I think so.
Yeah.
So are we kind of attaching this to like basic melee? Like you press the button and it's not like a special technique or something? What did you say?
Well, he says the phrasing of it is which FPS has the best melee attack. So if there's another melee attack that's available instead of like the base one, I feel like we can include that. Like if there's like that's a good one, because then like Destiny swords would be up for grabs.
I do like Destiny
would be pretty
swords,
sick.
yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, so depending on the criteria here, I would say that you can do a Batista bomb in Gears of War 4. That's pretty dope. That's hard to. And then I would say, if they count, like the glory kills in Doom 2016 are really cool.
That is true. Yeah. I've been doing a lot of those playing Eternal.
Yeah. Now, if we're just talking about basic, like you press the B button or whatever to do a melee attack, I haven't played a lot of shooters. I don't normally go there, but one that comes to mind for me is a game, I think it was on the PS2, called Dark Watch. Speaking of Capcom publishing weird things. Now this game was basically a Halo clone, but it was also like a Wild West supernatural thing. So you were like this kind of vampire-y cowboy guy fighting zombies.
Yeah.
And as far as I remember, like a lot of the controls and the physics and everything were very similar to Halo. But all the guns had like goofy, cartoonishly absurd like blades on them, like on the handles and stuff. So you'd have like a pistol.
Just so you know,
and it would have this like.
Just so you know how over the top this game is. The main character's name is Jericho Cross.
Oh yeah, that's the kind
That's
of.
about as extra as you can get. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you just have like, this is your pistol, but it has like two curved blades coming out of the bottom of it, and it's like you go to do the melee, and the animation would be all wacky and include whatever bizarre looking sharp thing was sticking out of the handle of your gun at the time. And I was just like, oh, this is cool, because it's the PS2 and I'm like 15 or whatever, probably younger than that, but yeah, that's what comes to mind.
Man, dude, all of these names are like very like Jericho Cross. The first female lead is Cassidy Sharp.
Hell yeah.
Like,
that game was
the second one is Tala, which is Stalking Wolf.
The E3 trailer
and then
for
there's
that game is amazing. I recommend looking that up.
Yeah?
Sometime.
Yeah.
This sounds as
and
as
I guess-
boilerplate and by the numbers as it could possibly get, but also
hey.
super extra.
It's so extra.
What do you think if you had to design a bad guy's name? Like, what would you think? Would you use the word Lazarus?
Maybe.
Would you use that
That
name?
or
Would you
Alistair.
Yeah, would you use the classic like Malkoth, as their last name? Because that's what they did.
Lazarus.
That's what
Lazarus Malkoff. Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
A Roman person who founded the Dark Watch and then became a vampire and then turned on them and became a villain.
Wild.
As you do.
Because of course that's what was going to happen. You had to know.
Naturally.
It's called the Dark Watch. You had to know. Anyways.
Melee attacks. I think my offering just has to be the Blood Punch from Doom Eternal, right? Like, it's basically it. Chainsaws in Doom Eternal, Doom 2016, Doom 1 even. Just, if they count, they're always satisfying in their own way.
That is true. Chainsaws are really good.
And I suppose shoutouts, this isn't necessarily super satisfying, but it's just cool that he has it. In the original Quake, you have just a blood-covered axe as your melee attack.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. The feedback isn't great because
Not bad.
it's Quake and melee attacks or whatever, but it's like, it's cool. But that'd probably be it for me. That's the best I can think of, really.
Yeah. Not bad. Third question. This will be the last one before we go back to... Ooh. Okay. We have a fun Murph one, but I feel like it will be better if we wait till Will gets back.
Yeah.
So I will just... We've got a question from... Actually, you know what? I'm going to take this question from Matt. Stormageddon. This question: what is a video game genre mashup that you want to see more of? And I'm going to piggyback on a discussion we were having earlier and say tactics games. I want to see more tactics mashups with other genres because I didn't know you could do a tactics mashup with a beat 'em up. I didn't know you could do a tactics mashup with a run and gun. And I'm fascinated to see what else we can do. We already know that tactics RPGs work because of Final Fantasy Tactics. What else can we do with this formula? You know, we've got roguelites with like Into the Breach. You know, what else can we do with this? We might be getting towards the end, you know, but if I could see like a, oh man, okay, now I want to see this. Imagine a Metroid style game that's a tactics game where you're retracing your grid-based steps after you find keys and unlocking new abilities, stuff like that. Could we do that? Could we have like an expansive grid-based game where you're going around unlocking keys, upgrading your character that's not level-based? Could that work?
Be interesting to see them give it a shot, that's for sure.
Could we have a perfect information Souls-like tactics game where you're on a grid-based map with a boss and they're doing a bunch of abilities that have huge areas of impact and you can like go in front of them and do like a parry or something, you know, dodge roll through or what have you? I feel like that could be interesting to check out.
Could be.
Lucas, what do you think?
It's a really good question.
If you need time to think, I think I got a good one.
So a couple things come to mind just based on stuff I've played recently. There's a game Heart Machine is working on called Possessors. And it's a Metroidvania, but the combat is kind of inspired by platform fighters. So it's got this thing where like there's knockback is a factor, right? Because in like Smash Bros or whatever, the more damage you do to someone, the further they get knocked away. And then your special moves are like hit the special button or do it with like a direction. So it kind of uses those two things, and then it's got kind of like a character action kind of cadence to it, where it's like, oh, you knock this guy back or away from you, but then you can like yank it back or find other ways to kind of like get a hold of it and sort of do your like extensions and juggles and whatnot. So that kind of had me thinking of like, what other situations could you do like Smash Bros. Sort of physics and controls and like other situations. So I think that could be cool.
Yeah.
And another thing is like there's some weird ways turn-based combat has kind of popped up. There's a game called Monster Sanctuary that does
game rules.
Yeah. So it's like a Pokemon kind of game with turn-based combat, but it's a Metroidvania too. So instead of the typical RPG where you're going around on a top-down kind of thing, it's like, oh, you're just navigating a Metroidvania kind of thing. But then you find an enemy and it's turn-based combat. Square Enix, Squaresoft, has a game I forget the name of, but it's a RPG and also like a racing game.
Racing Lagoon.
Yeah, Racing Lagoon. And I keep seeing
There's an excellent video. There was an excellent video by the YouTuber Dungeon Chill where he goes into it fully. Great watch. Fascinating game.
Yeah,
for sure.
I haven't played that yet, but I really want to.
It finally got like a fan translation, which it was always very difficult to do because like if you've seen the video or played any of it, you understand why it was difficult to do. It's got a real tone to it. But that game is cool.
Yeah. So those two games kind of have me thinking of like, what could you do with like RPG stuff, which is normally probably like feels like the most inflexible kind of like mechanical system in the world, but what if you just dump it somewhere else where it has no business being? What could you do with that?
Yeah, fair. But at the same time, I feel like RPGs have the most mixes with other genres already.
True.
Even if it's just basic level up mechanics, show up in fucking everything, you know? So
yeah, you don't want that.
We've talked about this before.
Like numbers go up, you can put that anywhere. But what about just turn-based combat? Yeah.
Well, I think I got a good idea. So here's one for you, just for any game developers out there listening. Real-time strategy, bullet hell.
Oh, goodness.
I don't want to play it, but I would like it to exist.
So to further expound on it, there are missions in, for example, StarCraft 2, where you're controlling like a small amount of units in like big boss fights, and you have to kind of dodge, markers and things like that. It plays very much like that, but you're obviously still controlling a real-time strategy. So I'm thinking, what if you have something like a StarCraft or Command and Conquer or whatever, but the vast majority of attacks and things are like area markers that does area damage, shoots bullets, projectiles, things which can be moved around. So you just add like all these extra layers of potential micro and such, and then unit composition and army composition can make it easier or harder to have things that dodge or so on. I think you could do a lot with that if you just make it that, these attacks become relatively flexible and are more just, you're aiming the attacks rather than you just clicking and then doing it on an enemy. So something like that. That's a thought I just had. So I think that'd be pretty cool.
That kind of reminds me of the difference between like Disgaea and Makai Kingdom. Like where you're not moving specifically based on a grid, but you're kind of moving like areas of effect. So like you'll have like a circular thing and you can kind of like manually target it wherever you want.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
Yeah, something like that.
There's a lot of potential, but not that much being done in the like turn-based but analog movement space.
Yeah.
I love a good grid, but I do feel like there's some interesting stuff to be done in that space.
For sure. And even as far back as Phantom Brave, you get stuff that experiments with that,
Yeah. I think probably the most famous one would probably be XCOM, I would imagine, of like analog movement in a game.
That's grid-based.
I'm thinking like Valkyria Chronicles kind of sounds...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would be a much more... Although that's third person.
But
yeah.
Something like a RTS version of that. With bullets everywhere. Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I guess XCOM is grid based, just the way you select is more analog, but the results are grid based.
Yeah. Pretty much they're all grid based as far as I remember. So
yeah. All right. Let's see, what else do we want to tackle this time? We've done Tactical Takedown, we've done Switch 2, we've done some listener questions. Do we want to... I guess I could maybe do one more and then we could dip. It's been kind of a long episode already. We've already been going for like an hour and a half. Kris, I don't know if you had anything in particular that you wanted to talk about. I can talk about my preview of Anno 117 Pax Romana.
I can always find something to talk your ear off about, but I don't have anything that really stands out supremely at the moment. Okay. So by all means, go for it.
Okay. Lucas, did you have anything in particular that you wanted to cover this week? I know we mentioned like a bunch of stuff, but like we can get to it all. Eventually.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I had was Magic, and that's like relevant timeliness, just because that stuff just happened. But
oh yeah, SGF. Okay.
But
yeah, we can do that if you want to do that. We can tackle that. How much time do you think you would want for that? Do we have enough?
Maybe. I don't know. we could leave it for next time if you want. Because I ate up a lot of time this.
Hopefully I'll have some of the MTG FF cards by that point, so I can comment on it myself. But yeah.
Well, it's up to you. It's up to you, Lucas. I'll give you the reins. Do you want to talk Magic or do we want to do Anno? Totally up to you. I do not care.
You go. So I
Okay.
don't think you had a thing earlier, unless my brain broke.
I mean, just turtles.
Oh, that was both of us. So yeah.
You shared the turtle spotlight, yeah.
Okay. So I attended the Ubisoft preview event for Anno 117 Pax Romana. This is my first Anno game. I've played a lot of not a lot. I've played my fair share of 4X games. I've played a lot of strategy games. Most of mine are based on combat and conquest and things like that. And when my Ubisoft rep reached out and was talking about Anno and was talking about how this is a game where you don't have to fight at all, I was like, oh, okay, all right, I'm interested. I could use some not fighting. And so I joined. I was able to play the new Anno for I think 3 or 4 hours. And basically what happens is you're in the Pax Romana period, which Pax is peace. So the era of Roman flourishing in peace, where there wasn't any active wars going on, and you're basically a governor who's tasked with kind of governing over your own town, and you can turn that town into a city. You can develop trade routes with a bunch of people who are around you. It is very Civ in certain ways, but you have a lot more control over whether you get into scuffles with enemies, at least so far as my experience was. And it's a lot more focused on getting granular with things. So you can build all of your roads. You can, I need to build a warehouse so that I'll have people close enough to where I'm working to do this. As I'm developing, I can have lower class people working in these specific places. Other shops that I need have more demanding jobs that need done. So I need to upgrade my town and get enough people in to where I'm getting more people who are maybe a member of the aristocracy or the upper middle class. It's way more economy and
logistics and trade is typically the main thrust of the series, I think.
Yeah, which is fantastic. It's great. So I've played, God, I want to say there's a cozy game. God, I talked about it recently. Why am I keep forgetting its name? Kingdom. No. Cozy. No. There's a game I have that I have played that it is. Man, I hate when this happens. There's a cozy builder game that I was playing that I covered for the platformers, where you basically every time the winter rolls around, your fields will shut down. They won't be producing crops because they don't in real life, and you have to kind of get enough food for your people to survive kind of through the winter. And there's a lot of it's like a cozy city builder type situation, and I had a lot of fun with that. And this is basically just a really expanded version of that. That's really fantastic. I really enjoyed my time with it. I'm excited to play more. I'm never gonna find this fucking looking around for it.
All right.
Fabledom. There it is.
Fabledom. No, I've never played that one. Okay.
So that is a very cozy, do you want to set up a relationship with a neighboring ruler? And you can enter into hey, I'd like a queen. Let's join our kingdoms together, these sorts of things. But it's all about mastering the topography, making sure that people have the right pathways to get where they need to for work. Are you going to build some stuff that people can get to streams, or, build a fishery or something? And that is basically you take that, blow it up, give it way more production values, and it's still like relatively cozy, but it's also like you can get sweaty with it if you want to. You can do combat if you want to. There are definitely pirates out there who blew up my main trade ship, and fuck you, dude. Like, you pissed me off, and that like hamstrung my ability to trade with neighboring nations and stuff like that. The place where you start will have like natural resources. Other places will have different ones. So there will be straight up things that you can't build where you start, and you'll need to like expand to different islands and things like that. It's really, really cool. I love it. I don't know how big Anno is.
Pretty
Obviously,
big.
It's like a Ubisoft thing. So like this feels like one of those series where like there's not a whole lot of entries in the series. They come along like every number of years.
5 or 6.
And the people that are into them are like super into them, but they don't get a lot of oxygen in the space. And so I just wanted to highlight like, hey, if you're looking for something and you don't want to get super sweaty and you want to just be like, I'm just going to build my civilization and become like a governor of a great Roman city or whatever, then like, this is cool. So check this out.
As somebody...
It's really fun.
Yeah, I have a little bit of experience with Anno, not a huge amount, but I've dabbled in it. So I can say it is interesting that this is the time period they're going with, because all the previous ones have been either near future or Age of Sail, basically. 1400 through 1800, usually. Every 100 years or so, there is in history, there is an Anno for it.
I think they have like something where it is like every game in the Anno series, the year... numbers, it's like a nonary game.
Yes.
Like every one of the years adds up to 9, and so it'll be like
So it does. I never noticed
one that was like so this one's 117, and so this is like the year that it's set in, and that's kind of how they do it. But yeah, it's
because I have Anno 1602 9, I have Anno 1701 9, and I have Anno 2070 9. So there you go.
Yep.
Never noticed that.
Yeah. So this is a new time period. I like that. Like a lot of times, like the Civilization games will be like, oh, we're just set in every time period, and so they don't really focus down as much. But they're also like more kind of zoomed out.
Yeah, you usually got to go to Total War games for the more granular parts of history.
Yeah, and that is something that this is giving me that I really like, where it's like you can zoom in pretty far and be like, okay, I see these people wandering around, I see all this stuff. I can also zoom out and be like, okay, where are the islands? Where are these people around here? What are they getting up to? I need some tropical bases. Do I want to make an alliance with somebody and get access to like their manufacturing and then be dependent on deals that we can work out? Or do I want to go out and explore and do the way more money intensive, this is like a deserted island, we're going to set up a base of operations here, this is going to be a new hub for our trade routes, but like I need to also build all of my infrastructure again.
Yeah,
like it's really, really interesting. I like it a lot. So
yeah, and it's a pretty cool series. Never super grabbed me, but it's got its niche, and it's neat to see them basically continuing with it. So yeah,
it's nice having. It's one of these weird situations where like, I've played a lot of games that are similar to it, but don't cover the exact thing. So it's like I go over here and I play, StarCraft or whatever, and I go over here and I play like Fabledom, which is like a cozy city builder, and then I play like SimCity. And it's like, I'm getting little bits of these, but like Anno is like a circle in the middle that was just like, oh, you've like lived in this city for 20 years and you just never went over to this part of the town. Like, so you just don't know anything that's over here. And it's nice to finally like fill in those gaps. That's been something that I've enjoyed doing, and I've done more purposefully since the original Switch came out, when I first played like Animal Crossing, where it was just like, I've heard a lot about this, but I haven't played this. And then I played Stardew Valley and all these sorts of things where it's just like, these have influenced a ton of other things, but I never actually played this one. And so it's nice to finally like fill in that gap. And it's great. I had a ton of fun. I think people are going to get a lot get a lot out of this when it comes out.
For sure. I will keep an eye on it, for sure.
Awesome.
Anno 117 Pax Romana. And there was a trailer that just came out for it based on the at the PC Games Summer Showcase. So
with a release date, I believe.
Yes.
But yeah, Anno 117, not to be confused with Petty Officer 117, which is an entirely different series.
November 13th.
All right.
On PC, PS5, and Series X and S. Please be excited.
Do it.
Please, look forward to it.
Anyways.
But not too look forward to it, because Ubisoft is still... Ugh.
Yeah, well...
That's the management.
Yeah. Beggars cannot be choosers, my lord, as they say. But we can be, because we're the consumer. So. Anyways, let's get out of here.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us for Beyond the Skybox. If you like the show, please leave us a review and tell somebody about it. The first episode is available on free feeds. So send that to people. It is a like bonus episode feed drop on Into the Skybox. So go ahead and share that around so that people can kind of see what we're all about. We love talking to you all, so come join us. I'm on Blue Sky at Brian Barnett, BrianBarnett, and you can find what we're doing on Twitch, YouTube, and most importantly, Patreon at Skybox Critics. And everything we do is on skyboxcritics.com.
That's right.
Join us to make the industry better, one piece at a time, and we cannot do it without your support. Thank you so much for contributing to what we are doing. Every dollar goes a long way to making sure that we can actually keep the site going. We really believe in what we're doing over here. We want to be able to highlight games that aren't being talked about in the greater space, highlight pieces that are not getting greenlit in the space, and generally be like a force for good and accountability in an industry that is kind of lacking that at the moment. So we can't thank you enough. But that's me and us. Lucas, where can people find you?
Find me on Blue Sky at Hokuto Lucas. And of course, skyboxcritics.com. Yes.
Kris.
Hey, you can find me around the internet as Kris Cornelise. I have a Blue Sky, which I believe is the same. I don't use it much, but it's there. Say hi. You can find most of my contemporary stuff also on skyboxcritics.com, and my own personal website is versusthebacklog.com. That's vsthebacklog.com, one word. Check it out.
Nice. Thank you all for joining us. From everybody here at Skybox, we hope you have a wonderful week. Stay safe out there, because until next time, we are out.
Peace.
Goodbye.